Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way morning briefing. It is Tuesday, the 12th of August. My name's Ryan. I'm joined by Tony. Tony, how are you doing this morning?
Very well, Ryan. Look like it's going to be a beautiful day. So, yeah, all good.
Yeah, it's been very, very warm recently. I don't know about how you've felt, but the last couple of days, despite there really being a lack of sun, it's felt really, really warm where we are in Scotland just now. But can't complain about the warm weather, can we?
No, certainly not. We can complain about many other things related to Celtic, but certainly not the weather.
Yeah, one thing we certainly cannot complain about as well is the immediate impact that Benjamin Nygren has made to this Celtic side since coming into the midfield. Thought he had a solid enough debut, had a great chance to make it to open the scoring against St Mirren, but against Aberdeen at Pittodrie, he did open the scoring. He profited off of a great chip by Kieran Tierney, and it was a great first time shot into the back of the net. He also got an assist for Rio Hatate's second goal, the second goal of the afternoon. Just before we get in talking about his quotes, sort of the quotes that were held over from Sunday. What have you made of his contributions so far? Because he had an impressive pre-season, and now he seems to really be in the swing of things in that midfield, and he's really taken that position as his own at the moment.
Yeah, I think everybody, when they witnessed Benjamin Nygren in pre-season, took one look at him and thought, there's a player there. Just
Yeah.
his natural, the way he took a ball, the way he kind of strolled forward, the way he tried to be creative, and everybody thought, great. In pre-season, lots of players have looked good in pre-season. It's when the ball bounces for real. And I'm maintaining it. Had he got that goal against St Mirren, he'd probably have gone on to dominate the game, Ryan. But he had an okay game against St Mirren,
Yeah.
but he was really unlucky. It was a brilliant save by Samal George that stopped him from scoring. And I think had he scored that, he would have relaxed as well, and it would have been a great way to introduce himself to the Celtic supporters at Celtic Park. But on Sunday, I thought he was excellent. Just that way that he does steal into the box. You noticed that a few times against St Mirren, and then on Sunday, it came to fruition. Wonderful setup from Kieran Tierney. As I say, I can't underemphasise how good that was. But that finish is exquisite, Ryan. Very difficult skill, and it's easy to blutter them over the bar, as they say in Glasgow parlance. But he got right underneath it, and he got it low and hard. And when it's low and hard and it's on target, it's very difficult to stop. And yeah, I'm really pleased with Nygren. Don't want to go overboard, but I think everybody can see there's the nub of a real good footballer there. And he got, I think it was 17 goals for Neuschland last season. He's even talking about surpassing that total at Celtic. Everything's possible, he's saying. So if you can get a midfielder weighing in with between 12 and 15 goals a season, and also kind of the same double digits in assists, you've got an asset on your hands, Ryan. And I think everybody's just excited to see how chart his progress as the season wears on.
Quite an interesting reality that Celtic have got at the moment, that all of their goals, all of their competitive goals scored thus far, have all came from midfield. You had Luke
Mm.
McCowan's goal to open the scoring against St Mirren. You then had Benjamin Nygren, who is very versatile. He can play in that number 8 position, but he can also play through the middle and on the right hand side. I think he's one of these Swiss Army knives that he's going to just be able to pop up in any situation and do a job and be effective wherever he plays. Good football players can be versatile. He certainly is a good football player and versatile too. And then Rio Hatate with the screamer that he scored from just outside the box in the second half, which was trademark Rio Hatate, but brilliant to see all the same. Probably you want to see the goals spread out more. I know that Brendan Rodgers has said that he doesn't want one area to be scoring 30, 35, 40 goals a season, but if there's goals coming from the midfield, then naturally, if the strikers and the wingers are kind of off form or off colour at the moment, then they can pick up that slack later on in the season. But it's good to see. Benjamin Nygren was speaking after the game. The quotes were held over until Monday evening, yesterday evening at 6 o'clock. He was talking in particular about his Champions League dream and how the fact that he's wanted to play in the Champions League. This is the stage that he's wanted to be at for the whole of his career. The 25-year-old said after the game, It's a huge dream for me, the Champions League. I think all players want to play in the biggest competitions. There is no bigger competition in club football than the Champions League. It's a big dream. The team and I will do everything to get there. Who would we rather face? I don't know, to be honest. He then went on to talk about making his debut at Celtic Park. He said it was amazing to make his debut there. It's something he's visualised since he signed for the club. It was an amazing feeling and I can't wait to play more games. I could have scored last week, but that's part of football. Sometimes keepers make good saves and that's how it is. Making those darting runs into the box is part of my game. That's also why I scored so many goals last season. I can run a lot, so I always come a little bit from behind. Can I score as many as last season? Everything is possible. Just a man. I know you would have been there when he was saying all these quotes when he was speaking to the media. From reading them, I've not heard any of the audio from Benjamin Nygren. He seems like a pretty confident chap.
Yeah, he's also very happy, Ryan, comfortable in his own skin. He knows he's got this, and he knows he can play football. And he was also asked, can he nail down a regular place? And
My
his
favourite quote.
the answer to that question was, I've not come here not to start. Right? And he was also tapping into, he also said that he was here for a reason, and he quoted Jock Stein as well, football without the fans is nothing. And that was another reason why he came to the club. He's got a terrific fan base, and he saw that when he was pushed to the front on Sunday, and he conducted the traditional sing-along at Pittodrie with the players. So all of that ingratiates you to the supporters, ingratiates you to your teammates, and he just looks like a guy who thinks, I've landed here at something good. I want to be part of something good. And he's solely focused, Ryan, on making the Champions League. He was asked, you'll get your first taste of it, and he was like, But he's interested in getting through this qualifying tie and playing at the, in the league phase. That he spoke and said that players were driven by that, but he was very calm and very composed and very assured when he was talking to the media, and he was just like, yep. Probably the way I looked at it was he was kind of giving off the vibe, you ain't seen nothing yet, wait till I get started, and I'll show you. But yeah, that's my trademark. I can run into the box, I can score goals. That's how I got as many goals last season. And a lot of people would back that question off. Can you score the same amount of goals, Ryan? And say, I don't set any targets. We'll see what happens. He's like, yep, everything's possible. I think he feels there's goals in this team because he's got other creative players around him. And, as I say, he was very comfortable and very assured and, telling people, I've not come here to sit on the bench. The other guys can fight over the other two positions in the midfield, but I'm one of your starters. That's the vibe I was getting from, which I really, really liked.
Yeah, it's quite a daunting prospect that a guy's came in 2 games, specifically the second game, and really almost made that position his own. Now, I reckon that there will be some changes in the team for Friday's game against Falkirk. Maybe not too many changes to disrupt squad harmony, but I do think there'll be changes here and there. For me, just personally, I think Benjamin Nygren's one of the players that will remain in the team just because his form's so good. He just already looks like quite an important player for Celtic. He stamped his authority all over Pittodrie on Sunday afternoon, and I don't know, would taking him out the team, would that hamper him because he's in a good place at the moment, just coming off the back of a man of the match performance. Brendan Rodgers, his new manager, was singing his praises. Would that hamper his progress if he was to be taken out the team, or do you see that rotation has just been natural?
I think rotation is natural, but I agree. I would want to keep him there just for momentum, Ryan. And if he's got his eye in on goal, see if he can chalk up some more goals. So I'd like to start him and get to a position where, if you're comfortable in the game, take him off. But I just want to get as many minutes as possible. Players run the risk of getting injured in any game. You just need to look at Jota, which was fairly innocuous, wasn't it? But
yeah,
if you want to protect him for the for the bigger test moving forward, so be it. Then I understand that these are the ideal games in which to rotate your squad. But Falkirk gave Celtic one of the hardest games last season in the League Cup. So I would treat them with much respect and play. I would rotate a couple of positions, but I wouldn't go mad with it because you're trying to build something. Players should be naturally fit anyway. and be able to cope with this games in the cup so early. So yeah, but Nygren was one I would like to see play, I have to say.
I think we want to see more. I think there's an excitement
Yeah,
amongst the support and those who cover Celtic that there's an excitement and you want to see more of this player, and that bodes well. It just shows you what new signings can do. They can reinvigorate a side. They can reinvigorate a midfield that's really busy. All of a sudden, you're looking at other players that are on the outside looking in, and they're not getting as much game time because of the immediate impact that Benjamin Nygren's made, not just in not just in the competitive games, but also in pre-season as well. He really caught the eye. Shows you how important pre-season can be for a new player coming in and immediately making an impact. I just want to bring up those quotes that you were talking about because I think they're worth mentioning in full. He says, "I didn't come here to not play. Of course, I came here to try and come in fast and show my abilities in training and training games. Of course, I came here to help the team win games. That's my mentality. There is competition, but that's part of football. That's how it is in big clubs. It would be weird if there was only 11 good players in such a big team as Celtic. I think we have 25 or 30 good players in Celtic, but only 11 can start the game. It's a very long season. We've only played our first 2 games, so we will need a lot of players. A lot of good quality players. I think we have that. For me, I don't think too much of the positions. It's football. You need football intelligence. I can see Benjamin Nygren getting put up for a lot of these press conferences if he's going to speak like that, because he's a man that just clearly just portrays confidence when speaking. And it's despite it not being his first language, those quotes are really, really strong from a new player coming in.
Yeah, as I say, he was very impressive. And it's always, when you're happy, Ryan, it's, you come across well. Excuse me. He was really delighted on Sunday, and he sat in front of us, obviously get his first goal, and that helps, doesn't it? He's hit the ground running. Decent enough game against St Mirren, but excellent against Aberdeen, and that limelight was on him, and he handled it superbly. But yeah, he's someone to me who I think he knows that he's now got a stage upon which he can thrive, and he wants to take it to the end.
He's ready for that stage as well, Tony, because he had the Genk move earlier on in his career and it didn't work out for him. Now I think he's ready for that stage.
Yeah, and he wants to take that to the nth degree. Hence, laying that early marker. I want to play in the Champions League. That's my dream. I've dreamt of playing on a stage like that. He's envisioned it in his mind. So great. And you really do, and he said, myself and the team will do our level best to get it. So that shows you that give a wee insight into what the players and he are thinking. There's a lot of doom and gloom around Celtic just now in terms of the lack of transfer activity, but the players are clearly focused on winning this double-header Champions League qualifier, which is a good thing. I thought, right, good. At least if they're all in tune and they're all in sync, then that's fine. They can cope with this tie, even if they don't bring in any new blood. I think they can cope with the quality of opposition in this tie over 2 legs. But they need players, Ryan, for the challenges that lie ahead. Fine. But I still maintain that you're leaving a bit of jeopardy in the tie if you don't bring anybody in. And that's fine. That's up to the Celtic board and the powers that be. It's their call on that, isn't it? And I think the manager is exasperated in terms of saying what he needs and bringing in players. So fine, but if they go with the squad that they have just now, fine. It's guys like Nygren that will get you there, and he's hell bent on getting Celtic there, and he's portraying a confidence there which I quite like. Lots of people, when they sit down in front of press, are very guarded. He came across very well, and he was very confident that he can take his game to the level where he wants to, along with the other players, his teammates that will help him. So I enjoyed speaking to him on Sunday, I have to say.
Yeah, and I enjoyed reading these comments as well. Before we get into the second segment of the show, where I'm going to ask everybody for their questions, and please get your questions into the comments. I'll try and read out as many as we can about everything regarding Celtic at this moment in time. I thought we would talk about a couple more of the small wee news hits that are going about with regards to Celtic. So tonight, is the second leg of Celtic's opponents' Champions League tie, the third round tie between Slovan Bratislava and Kairat Almaty. Kairat actually won the first leg 1-0 at home in Kazakhstan. I think it was their young 16-year-old talent that scored the decisive goal for them on the night. They could have actually been 2-0 up if it wasn't for an offside goal, a goal that was chopped off after it was scored by the player. But the game in Bratislava tonight, 1-0 to Kairat, although it's very much in the balance. You would say, Tony, will you be tuning in at least to the score to see who Celtic could potentially be facing next week?
I think everybody of a Celtic persuasion will have an eye on that, won't they? They want to avoid a 7,000-mile round trip to Kazakhstan. I get that, but you have to play whoever the victors are of this tie are, Ryan, and Celtic will deal with it as fit. Bratislava would be ideal because everybody obviously has last season's 5-1 win at Celtic Park fresh in their minds. And but I think whoever we get, Ryan, it'll pose its own difficulty at the minute. But you have to say that I think the draw was possibly king to Celtic, and they should have enough in their armoury to triumph over the two legs. And my hope is that in the first leg, whoever they play, they can register or score enough goals and give themselves a comfortable lead to go away from home in the second leg and be comfortable and just do a bit of game management. That's the ideal scenario for me, Ryan, and how I'd like to see it pan out. But I think if you're asking us if we have a preference, unlike Benjamin Nygren, I would like Bratislava for travel purposes.
Yeah, for just logistics as much as anything, and obviously Celtic have got that game against Rangers on the Sunday after the second leg, so it's important, I would say. Important to get through, I think that's paramount, that's the most important thing, but if you can get an easier logistical journey, despite it probably being a harder game, I would say, if Slovan Bratislava were to qualify instead of Kairat, I think they're probably the better team out of the two, despite the first leg scoreline. I think it'd be better, but I guess we'll all watch and see what happens tonight and see who Celtic can face, who Celtic will face in that playoff round in order to get to the Champions League phase. It was Dastan Satpayev that scored for Kairat Almaty, who coincidentally it's actually his birthday today. He's 17 years old today, so he's definitely been flung in at the deep end. 17 years old and he's playing first team football. He's clearly ready, and the club clearly see him as a talent for now as well as the future, but he scored a wonderful penalty in the first leg that put Almaty ahead in the tie. So definitely one to watch this evening. And the other story that I wanted
injury time penalty as well, wasn't it, Ryan? So
it was the 90th minute, exactly the 90th minute, and then Kairat scored again, but it was given as offside. It was quite a wild game, to be honest, because Bratislava get a man sent off. Rahim Ibrahim gets sent off in the 65th minute. Then their coach, Vladimir Weiss Senior, whose son is the captain of Slovan Bratislava, he was sent off following 2 yellow cards in the 92nd minute. So it was a bit of a crazy tie between the two sides, and maybe the same will transpire tonight. We're not sure, but we'll certainly tune in and see what happens tonight and see who Celtic face. I think the next sort of news hit that I wanted to discuss was that of Matt O'Reilly, who you spoke to last week, Tony. He didn't let you in on any developments concerning his career or his movements, or his future career or his movements, but over the past 24 hours, he's been linked with a move to Juventus. That's not the only club he's been linked with this summer. He's also been linked with Roma and Napoli, I believe, as well as a host of other clubs, Everton too. But yeah, it seems as if sometime this summer, and the noises keep on going, but he will leave Brighton and Hove Albion and join a new team. It might be the old lady at Juventus. How would that be for him, do you think?
Do you know what? I think a player like Matt O'Reilly could well be suited to Italian football. Just the language style that they have, and they would have room and space to express himself. But I did ask him that he'd been linked with loan moves to Italy and I think France as well. And he said to me he was looking forward to playing against Wolfsburg on Saturday for Brighton and the start of the English Premier League season. He never cracked a light, but I can only assume that negotiations were maybe at a delicate stage and he couldn't say too much, but that's what he told me about. I mean, a wonderful conversation with him. He's just so laid back and pretty zen and chilled. So I don't think a move to Juventus would faze him in the slightest. And but he did say he was concentrating on Brighton for the time being, but that might not be the case. As you say, that was reported by a couple of outlets last night, but it was also one of the outlets was saying on the premise that Juventus had to sell a midfielder first. I think there was a caveat there, wasn't there, in order for maybe Matt O'Reilly to come in. But there might be some legs in that, Ryan, and it doesn't really matter where Matt O'Reilly goes. I think he's a player that will flourish. He was so unlucky with that injury 9 minutes into his debut at Brighton, and it knocked him back for more or less the season, didn't it? But when he came back, he showed his quality, scored the winner against Manchester City. And I think he was unlucky he didn't feature for a whole 90 minutes for Brighton last season, which was just a real shame because he's a top talent. And regardless of if he stays at Brighton or he does go to Juventus, I can see him making a success of it, whatever he does. I think this is his kind of season where he's going to get back to his best, and his best at Celtic was great. That last season, 19 goals, 18 assists. Can't ask for any more than that, can you?
Yeah, he was tremendous that season. Almost similar to the way that Scott McTominay was instrumental for Napoli's success last season. I've got no doubt he'll look at McTominay. I think McTominay is a great example. Yes, there's a lot of Scottish boys playing in Serie A, and the latest one looks to be Lennon Miller, who's on his way, or who is in Italy just now to finalise his move to Udinese. But there is that pathway now. It seems to be like a second chance sort of area in Italy. Although Matt O'Reilly's only had a season in English football, so that would be a little bit harsh to say it's a second chance. But it seems like a bit of a refresh area for players. Scott McTominay wasn't fancied at Manchester United. Went to Napoli. He's now got murals of him in Naples. That's what they do. They completely idolise him. There's other players as well. Lewis Ferguson's the captain of Bologna. You've got Shea Adams playing for Torino. Kevin De Bruyne has just joined Napoli as well. Billy Gilmore's at Napoli as well. So all of these Premier League talents and Scottish talents as well are making their way to Italy. It seems like a pretty good landing or a pretty good destination for these players to go to really become stars once again.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that these guys are thriving in Italian football, Scottish guys in particular. If it's a wonderful opportunity, Ryan, to go to a wonderful country and learn a beautiful language and just have a life experience if they're fed up with Scottish, English, British football. And I think the guys that you've mentioned, you only need to look at them to see how they've thrived on that stage. And some players might think, Lennon Miller's a classic example. You can go and enjoy something different, and I think he will have spoken to the likes of Billy Gilmore and McTominay and guys like that who have played, and they'll only have wonderful things to say about Serie A. So it's booming again, isn't it? It's football cyclical, and I remember growing up in the mid-80s and the 90s. Serie A was a place to be. Maradona was there, Careca was there, and then you had the influx of Dutch players at AC Milan, and then because it was boom time, it ended up Channel 4 picked up the rights and started showing it and beaming it into your Football Italia. Paul Gascoigne went there, David Platt went there, there was British interest, so Italian football has always been something that has gathered, even going back to the likes of when Dennis Law and Joe Baker signed for Torino in the 60s. Older people will remember that. So it's always held a fascination because they've always been there or thereabouts in terms of the European competitions. Celtic's most famous match came against Italian opposition. A couple of semi-final defeats against Italian opposition, European Cup semi-final defeats. So it's been an intrinsic part of Celtic's history as well. So there's always been that fascination. And down the years, I've always liked Italian football. Lots of people say it's boring, but it's always held that kind of intrigue and fascination for me. So I think it's wonderful to see these guys thrive in Italian football, and if you get the opportunity, then I think a lot of players are thinking, why not? I'll have a crack at it. And I think Matt O'Reilly is a player who could be suited to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with that. Definitely one to keep an eye on, especially because I believe that Celtic have got a percentage of the profit on the player. But
Yeah.
I think it all depends on the price that Brighton get for their asset. Because obviously they need to make a profit in order for Celtic to gain any of that profit. So we'll keep an eye on the fees that are involved, but definitely one to keep an eye out on and for the next sort of 2-3 weeks before the end of the window, especially if his future lies elsewhere, away from Brighton and Brighton and Hove Albion, easier for me to say. I've got a couple of questions that I've starred in the comment section, so we'll just go through some of them. If you still want your comment in, please put it in the comment section. I'll try and read it out at the end while we get to them. Natalie comes in and says, do you think that Daizen Maeda will leave Celtic? It's a very straight question, Tony. I don't know if it needs a straight answer or it needs a long-winded answer, but do you think that Maeda will stay at the club for next season?
It's on the back of reports from Japanese media, isn't it, that he's set to leave, and Celtic have put a price tag of like 27, 28 million on him. Personally, I don't think he'll leave the club, but stranger things have happened, Ryan, and you just cannot tell at this minute in time the way the Celtic board are acting. But it was kind of unsubstantiated reports, wasn't it, in the media that Daizen Maeda could be set to leave Celtic, which is why we never really mentioned it yesterday. We did see it, didn't we? We were cognizant of it. So
yeah, I wanted to have a wee look and see where the actual report was coming from, and I looked at the comments below the tweet, which was actually out about 2-3 days ago. It's not as if it was a new tweet that came out as we were live, but a lot of people were rubbishing the source. So you know, when I see Japanese rumours, I tend to believe them because of the way that the press and the way that clubs deal with transfers over there. It's very serious. There's not really much rumours going about. Usually when a player is named in publications, that's where they're going. I think that's how we found out that Maeda was actually coming to Celtic in the first place, because his name was getting linked with Celtic from, I think, the end of the 2021 summer transfer window up until 2022 when he signed on Hogmanay. That name was always there, as was Rio Hatate. It was Ideguchi that was maybe the surprising one out of the three, but there's always those rumours, or not. There's no rumours rather in Japanese media when a player's mentioned, and when they're mentioned in big publications, then you can pretty much believe it and bank on it. But as of yet, Maeda's not been mentioned in any of the big publications, so I don't think we need to worry as of yet. Another Japanese player that's been signed by Celtic this summer, alongside Shinya Yamada, is Hayato Inamura. AR comes in and he said that Inamura, he read from somewhere else that Inamura has basically been binned by Rodgers. If that's the case, why is Rodgers allowed players to be signed like that? I don't. I've got to refute the claim that he's been binned, because he's played games in pre-season for Celtic. The fact that he's not made it into any of the teams for the competitive games would maybe just suggest that that's where he is in his development at the moment, and he maybe needs a loan deal. But do you agree with that statement, Tony?
I think myself and John were speaking about this last week. Because of the lack of actual concrete transfer activity, and so the need for Celtic news, you need to fill that void and that vacuum, and it just becomes speculation. Sometimes it's nonsense and rumour and counter rumour, and so I always take these kind of things with a pinch of salt. Inamura's come in, the manager has said himself that there's a process in terms of signing players, but he's heavily involved. He has the final say, doesn't he? That people go away, do their due diligence, and then present a list to him, but there's no player that comes in that he doesn't have a say on. So I'll go with the manager in that, Ryan. I don't necessarily believe that Inamura has been binned. I think he had a plan for Inamura to come in, assess him in training, and then send him out on loan. Don't think he's deviated from that plan. But in the games he played, he caught the eye, and he was kind of thinking, okay, maybe he has got something to offer. But I think in the fullness of time we'll find out exactly what the plan is for Inamura. But as I say, I'm pretty sceptical about things like he's been binned and Brendan Rodgers doesn't want him, stuff like that. So I would hang fire on those kind of statements. But again, it's that void, isn't it, in vacuum that needs to be filled. And that's kind of what tends to happen in these situations.
Yeah, I just can't imagine Liam Scales being the backup option at left back for Celtic, despite him doing seemingly a stellar job in the 2 games that he's played there. I actually thought he was more comfortable in the second half when he shifted to left back when Tierney was brought off the park because he wasn't feeling well, and I think he had a bit of cramp as well. They're just building him up, building his fitness ahead of the bigger games to come. But I think another left back has to be prioritised. There's three or four priority positions for me, Tony. And as we get to the 12th of August, the deadline for the Champions League's the 14th. I know they can bring in wildcard players 24 hours before the game, but it's we're now at the nitty gritty stage, and positions need to be addressed. And I think left back's one of those important ones. I just want to bring up another comment as well. This is just one on the League Cup game against Falkirk. Would you like to see Sinisalo play on Friday? Thoughts, guys? Do you think the situation this season? I know Kasper Schmeichel's looked really good both in pre-season and in the 2 games thus far. Do you think the plan should be to give Sinisalo the cup games and give Schmeichel the league and Champions League games? Do you think that's the natural progression in that position?
I think so, yeah. I would like to see Sinisalo play, only for that very reason that you mentioned. I would give Sinisalo the cup games, and that's no slight on Schmeichel. What happened in the Scottish Cup final last season, I would still have... I think we spoke about it, didn't we, that he probably deserved to play in the Scottish Cup final, and what happened. It's fine. Don't need to go over it. But yeah, I would be inclined to give Sinisalo the League Cup and Scottish Cup fixtures and keep Schmeichel for the league games and the Champions League. Keeps them both fresh, doesn't it? It gives them both a focus, so that you say to Sinisalo, right, you're not just going to sit there, you're going to play in the cup games. Make sure you're ready for those when they come along. First one's coming along on Friday night. So yeah, I'm quite happy to see Sinisalo go between the sticks, Ryan. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I've been really impressed whenever I've seen him in between the sticks at Celtic, and I want to see more of him this season ahead of potentially, just looking at the contractual situation that Schmeichel's got. This could be his final year in football. With the World Cup, with Denmark, and the fact he's only got 1 year left, could be the passing of the torch almost. And Sinisalo becoming Celtic's number 1. But I've been impressed. Brendan Rodgers has been impressed as well by what he's brought to the team thus far, and hopefully we see more of him this season. I'm going to put these 2 together from Big Tom and Tony McCann. My question is the board waiting for Champions League qualification before backing Brendan? And then Tony comes in and says, any indication that we're at negotiation stage or scouting stage on transfers? Scouting stage seems too late. For me personally, and I'll bring you in a wee second, Tony, I think that they're constantly scouting players. It's just the next bit that I think they're finding difficult, the negotiation stage. Though this isn't a new thing for Celtic. I think they've struggled with negotiations in certain areas over the years, and I think that's happening again. They're maybe looking for the right price for a player, and they can't agree with the selling club. I think the one issue I don't think there'd be as big an issue if they didn't have qualifiers, but the fact that they have this 2-legged affair before getting into the league phase potentially is worrying people. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think the inertia and lack of activity, Ryan, lends you to think that they are. I won't say gambling on Champions League qualification per se, but I think they're waiting to see what European tournament Celtic are in before giving the manager a heavy committal. I think it's a terrible strategy, because I think the manager's earned it, to be fair. And I think his comments of late show there's a frustration there. And there's not only a frustration with the manager, but there's a frustration amongst the supporters as well. And it's manifesting itself. And I keep talking about the mood music around the club just now. Thank goodness for Kieran Tierney and Benjamin Nygren and Rio Hatate's goal on Sunday, because those are the things that have kept the Celtic fans afloat at the minute, because that mood music is not palatable, is it? It's not music to anybody's ears at the minute, Ryan, and you don't want that negativity to really transmit into something tangible, and it's not affecting anything at the minute. But it will affect things if Celtic can't get through this qualifier. It will increase to a crescendo, to be perfectly honest. But if that's their strategy, it's risky, I guess. But the manager, how many times can the manager say he needs quality in? He needs someone in the top line. He needs a winger. You mentioned a left back, and there's other positions where maybe are not as imperative at the minute, but you'd still maybe like to see others come in. So yeah, only the board can answer what they're up to, and you never really hear from them, do you? Not really heard from Paul Tisdale since he came in. Michael Nicholson only ever speaks at the AGM, and Peter Law and company never speak at all. So I think the Celtic fans hate that transfer window limbo that the club seems to be in, Ryan, and the inability to conclude a deal. And I think there's that, you have to respect other clubs if you want to buy one of their assets. This lowballing or going in 1, 2 and 3 times, it's a strategy that never really pays off for Celtic. I get you don't want to put over the odds for a player, but you have to be realistic in your dealings and be professional. And at times you just feel that's letting Celtic down.
Yeah. Final questions, and I'm going to lump these two in together because they're both about the same position on the park. Jerry Smith says, are we back in for David Strelec? And Wazaboy comes in and says, will we sign another striker? I think I'll answer the first one and then give you the chance to answer the second one, Tony. I don't see Slovan Bratislava. I think they would be out of their minds, to be honest with you, to sell Strelec to Celtic before potentially playing against them in the Champions League. With the windfall that they could get if they go through, to sell their star striker, arguably their best player on the park, would be almost bordering on insanity. I don't think it would make sense. I don't even think Celtic would do that with a player ahead of the Champions League qualifier. But what's your opinion on that? And do you believe that Celtic will sign another striker this summer?
No, not so much do I believe they need to sign another striker, Ryan. David Strelic, Bojan Majowski, pick a name, any name, link them with Celtic. Celtic need a striker.
We're getting to the point that Majowski would be quite a good option at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So that's desperate this saga has become in terms of a striker. Just any striker now being linked with Celtic, the fans are clinging on to the hope that they bring somebody in. They need somebody up top. The manager said it again on Sunday. He's reinforced that position all down the line. So whether it be before the Champions League qualifier against Kairat Almaty or Slovan Bratislava, I highly doubt. But they need somebody in before September the 3rd. That's a fact. Because as you mentioned at the top of the programme, Celtic's 3 goals this season have been scored by midfielders. You want your strikers to be up and running as early as the first game of the season. That's not happened. Not say it's problematic per se, but you don't want it to go on or persist like that. You also said that Brendan Rodgers is the kind of guy that doesn't like his striker to score 40 goals a season. He doesn't need his striker to score 40 goals a season. I'd love a 40 goals a season striker, I have to say. So I crave that in any team of mine, Ryan.
Can we not have both, Tony? Can we not have both? Goals everywhere, but goals from a specific place?
Why can't we have nice things? And the nice thing would be a 40 goal a season striker. For me, I would have one of them every day of the week and twice on a Sunday. So yeah, exactly, but that's just me.
Yeah, in an ideal world we would have it in both positions, but and I think Brendan Rodgers would like that as well. I don't think he's saying he's averse to it. I think he just
Yeah.
wants to see all the goals spread out amongst the team. And with Benjamin Nygren, players like Benjamin Nygren, that certainly helps. And other goals coming from Luke McCowan and Rio Hatate as well. Listen, we've been on for 40 minutes, a bit of a longer show because I wanted to bring all of our loyal subscribers and commenters into it today. But thank you to each and every one of you for sending in a question. If we didn't get to your question, please send it in tomorrow if it's still relevant, and we'll try and get to it as soon as we can, try and answer as many as we can. Tony, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Really do appreciate it. Fingers crossed that we get some more news about anything that's happening with the club at the moment ahead of the Falkirk game on Friday. The clock is ticking. The transfer window edges nearer and nearer to being closed, to slamming shut, as people say. I know you don't like me using that, but I'm going to use it today. Yeah, let's hope that Celtic get a little bit busier between now and the end of the window. But yeah, that's where we're at the moment. Tony, thank you very much for coming on.
Pleasure.
And thank you to each and every one of you for being in the comments section this morning. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow to discuss all the latest news and developments surrounding the club. Until then, have a very enjoyable Tuesday. Thank you, guys.